Have you ever thought about, like, what if there was this object, this artifact, so powerful it basically controlled the fate of a whole civilization?
Yeah.
Like, imagine something gold just radiating this energy, keeping countless beings alive, and, like, no one really knows how it works. Just that it's vital. What could that even be?
Well, that's a pretty good segue into what we're looking at today. The Golden Throne of Terra. Warhammer 40K, baby.
You got it straight from the grim darkness of the far future.
And you provided some pretty sensitive excerpts from, it's called Golden Throne Deep Research.pdf, right?
Exactly. This deep dive, we're going to unpack all this lore around this thing. The Golden Throne.
That's a lot to cover.
It is. But that's why you're here. You've given us so much good stuff to work with. We're going to look at its origins, how it works, why it's so important, and, well, how messed up it is now.
It's a big one in the 40K universe. Tons of history, myths, the whole 9 yards. But yeah, we're going to try and make sense of it all for everyone listening.
All right. So one of the things that jumped out at me, a lot of people might assume the throne is like a product of the Horus heresy. You know, something cobbled together in the chaos.
Right. Makes sense.
But nope. It's way older, like Dark Age of technology old. The Emperor found it in some ruins in Asia, I think.
Yeah, the core of it at least. And this is what's fascinating.
Yeah.
It wasn't just some hunk of metal. We're talking biomechanical, super advanced life support, and something that could, boost psychic powers.
Psychic powers, like psykers use.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And your notes even mention, did the Emperor design this all himself, or was he working with, hints and leftovers from what he found?
That would explain why no one seems to fully get how it works.
Possibly.
But, so the Emperor, classic Emperor, has this huge GE plan. We're talking Great Crusade era, early 30th millennium, centuries before Horus goes bad.
Right.
The Webway project. The throne was going to be the gateway, the key, hidden under the Imperial Palace, which itself is under what used to be Mount Everest. Talk about ambitious.
And think about the context. He wasn't just trying to make travel easier. The Emperor wanted to get humanity off the warp completely. It's too chaotic, too dangerous, too tied to chaos.
Chaos, for anyone just tuning in, is, well, bad news.
To put it mildly.
Yeah. And the throne failing to do what the Emperor wanted, that sets up the whole grim situation the Imperium is in.
You could say that, yeah.
So this Webway project, top secret, he didn't even tell the Primarchs about it.
His own sons, the Primarchs, demigods of war.
Right. He was worried about interference, especially from, the navigator houses.
They had a monopoly on warp travel. Navigators, they can see through the warp, right?
Right.
Guide ships. But a stable webway, that makes them obsolete.
Just gone. Poof. And there were these huge GE doors built to seal it all off, big enough for Titans to walk through.
Titans, those are basically walking war machines the size of skyscrapers.
Yeah. And speaking of building, the excerpts mention the Emperor worked with the Adeptus Mechanicus to build the throne, I mean.
The Mechanicus. Back then, some of them were still called the Mechanicum, the tech priests of the Imperium.
Right. But it's not clear, is it? Did they build it all new based on the Emperor's plans, or were they fixing up this old thing he found?
It's debated, even in the lore itself. Some sources point to new construction, others to modifying what was already there.
And get this, the Emperor found another device. It was called dark glass, like a smaller psychic throne, but above a warp rift. Needed a strong psyker to work.
A prototype, almost. Like a proof of concept that the Emperor might have used as a basis for the Golden Throne.
He even sent the navigator, Peter Ashelou, to study it.
Peter Ashelou, yeah. Famous navigator. Shows how dedicated the Emperor was to understanding this stuff, even if it meant upsetting the navigator houses.
Well, they weren't too happy about it. One of their agents even tried to destroy dark glass.
Yeah, there was some sabotage going on for sure.
So, point is, the Golden Throne wasn't meant to be life support at all.
No. It was the Webway gateway. But it needed a powerful psyker to run it.
The excerpts mention maybe even a Primarch? Like Magnus the Red?
Magnus, yeah, he was known for his psychic abilities until the Emperor basically disowned him for messing up.
The irony, though, what was supposed to lead humanity to this bright future?
Yeah.
It becomes the Emperor's prison after the Horus heresy wrecks everything.
That's a pretty bleak twist.
Ugh.
So much potential turned into, well,
So let's talk about that. The heresy happens, the Emperor is, well, not in good shape. How does this gateway become a life support machine?
It's a bit of a scramble, honestly. The Emperor's basically mortally wounded after fighting Horus. Rogel Dorn, the Primarch, he takes charge. Rushes the Emperor to the throne.
Oh, you Dorn, he's...
Yeah, the Praetorian of Terra, super defender. Anyway, He uses the Emperor's instructions to the Mechanicus. They cobble together stasis fields, these things called psi-fusion reactors.
Mm-hmm.
It's a miracle they got it working at all.
Psi-fusion reactors. That's tech that uses psychic energy for power, right?
Right, which is why the throne needs so much psychic input. It's drawing from the warp, essentially.
That sounds dangerous.
It is. Extremely.
So they managed to stabilize the Emperor, but he's not really alive, right?
Not in the way we normally think of it. It's more like arrested decay. No healing, no recovery. 10,000 years later, the descriptions are pretty grim. A desiccated husk, barely any life signs.
That's rough. But his mind is still active in the warp.
Yeah, that's the weird part. His psychic presence is super strong. The throne amplifies it, focuses it into this beam across the galaxy. The Astronomican.
The Astronomican, the psychic lighthouse that guides ships through the warp. I've heard some people describe it as the Emperor's soul, burning bright, but it's not that simple, is it?
Not really, no. It's this incredibly complex interaction between the Emperor's psychic might, the technology of the throne, and, well, something else. Something we don't fully understand.
So this almost corpse is keeping the entire Imperium connected.
Basically. And it's not just a navigational tool. The Emperor's actively battling chaos in the warp, holding back demons, protecting humanity.
He's like a psychic shield.
The greatest shield imaginable. But it comes at a terrible price. Remember Magnus the Red? He tried to warn the Emperor about Horus, used his psychic powers, blew a hole in the Emperor's protections around the Webway project. Under Terra.
Oh, no.
The Golden Throne is now the lock on that hole, holding back a demonic invasion. If it fails, well, it's not good.
It's putting it mildly.
The Primarch Vulcan. Smart guy he was. Built in a failsafe. The talisman of 7 hammers. If the throne goes down, it blows Terra to bits.
Wow. So no pressure, just holding back hell and stopping the planet from exploding.
The stakes don't get much higher than that. And to keep it all running takes a lot of power.
Psychic power.
Yeah. Psykers, thousands of them sacrificed every day.
Oh, man. I remember learning about that. The black ships, they find psykers all over the Imperium.
Yep. Bringing to Terra for it. Well, to feed the throne. It started with 1,000 a day.
That's already a lot.
But now, by the 41st millennium, it takes around 4,000. Every single day, the Golden Throne hungers.
I always thought that was just a saying.
Nope. It's a literal hunger. And it's getting worse. More psykers, more strain on the Emperor's mind as he fights chaos. It's a constant drain on the Imperium.
Okay, that's dark, but what does it mean strategically? Does the Imperium just run out of psykers?
It's a real concern. It puts pressure on the black ships, the Adeptus Astronomica.
Yeah.
They train and manage psykers.
Yeah, makes you wonder how long it can go on.
Exactly. The whole system is unsustainable. And it raises even bigger questions, like, was it always meant to be this way?
Good point. Let's shift gears a bit. We've talked tech, but the Golden Throne is more than that, right?
Absolutely. It's political, it's religious, well, everything in the Imperium revolves around it.
It's the ultimate symbol, isn't it? For 10,000 years, it's been the heart of the Imperium.
It's the most sacred icon, the cornerstone of the imperial cult.
The imperial cult being, well, the state religion, worshipping the emperor.
Yeah. And the ecclesiarchy, the church, they push this image of the emperor on the throne, the god emperor. All-powerful, eternally vigilant. They kind of gloss over the whole, desiccated corpse thing.
Right. Because if people knew, who knows what they'd think? Faith is powerful, but doubt.
Doubt is dangerous, especially in the Imperium.
Yeah. And the ecclesiarchy uses the throne's image for control, keeps everyone unified, obedient. Millions of pilgrims go to Terra just to see it.
It's like a pilgrimage to Mecca, but on a galactic scale.
Then you have the High Lords of Terra. They rule in the Emperor's name, supposedly doing his will. But is it really his will?
No one knows. It's this bizarre theocracy.
Right, where the God King can't actually speak or act.
And the throne room itself is the ultimate court of appeal, though the Emperor never seems to, actually judge anything.
Spooky. Then there's the Adeptus Mechanicus. They're in charge of maintenance, which must be a nightmare.
They see it as a holy relic. The ultimate machine, the embodiment of the Omnissiah, the machine god. Their duty to keep it running is sacred. But they don't really understand it, do they?
Not completely. Does the research say why it keeps breaking down? Is it just really old?
It mentions materials degrading, knowledge being lost, but also hints that the technology itself is inherently unstable, maybe even dangerous.
That's not good. So they're basically flying blind, hoping it doesn't fall apart completely.
Yeah, using rituals and ancient texts to keep it going, makeshift repairs, that kind of thing. And the tech priests who work on it. The Ordinatus of the throne, they live their whole lives in there, exposed to all sorts of hazards.
It's a death sentence, basically, but they see it as a holy duty.
Fanaticism and sacrifice. Hallmarks of the Imperium.
Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the throne.
Ah.
It's not doing so hot, is it? It's getting worse.
No, it's definitely not. There's a lot of evidence pointing to the 36th millennium as a turning point. Things started to get really inefficient, more power needed, more breakdowns. By the 41st millennium, it's basically fallen apart.
The Golden Throne hungers.
And it's a hunger that can never be satisfied.
So more psykers, 4,000 a day. But what else? What happens when a machine like this starts to fail?
Well, the Astronomican flickers. Navigators get nervous, ships get lost. There have even been moments where the Emperor's life support almost shuts down. Power surges, conduits failing.
That's terrifying. I mean, imagine being a navigator. Your guiding star just winks out.
Yeah, it's chaos. And the Imperium has tried some pretty drastic things to fix it. The Resilo conspiracy, for instance.
Oh, yeah, that was wild. High Lords and Inquisitors team up with a dark Eldar homunculus to heal the Emperor.
Talk about desperate measures. A Xenos and a homunculus at that. It's heresy just thinking about it.
And it backfired spectacularly. The homunculus betrayed them, of course.
Of course.
But they didn't give up. There was that expedition into the Webway. They made a deal with the Drukhari in Camorra.
Camorra, the Dark City, the heart of Drukhari space. It's not a nice place.
They traded slaves and access to the throne just for some help fixing it.
They might have bought the Imperium sometime. A few centuries, maybe.
Yeah.
But at a terrible cost.
Morally and, well, everything. And even the Adeptus Custodes, the Emperor's bodyguards, got involved.
Right. They went on a secret mission to the lost forge world of Morvain, looking for ancient tech to repair the throne.
Wow. I mean, those guys never leave Terra.
They don't, but they were that worried. And then you have Guilliman. He comes back, takes charge, and forbids any more risky fixes. He's putting his faith in the Mechanicus.
And Guilliman, the Primarch. A lot of people thought he'd have a solution.
He might, eventually, but for now, he's being cautious.
So the throne is, well, it's ticking time bomb, isn't it?
Pretty much. You've got the daily psyker sacrifices, the energy demands, the constant repairs, and all the people involved.
Working in that toxic environment, it's a huge burden.
On everyone. The mental strain, the spiritual weight, and then there are the rumors of hidden vaults under the throne, filled with dangerous technology from the Dark Age.
Okay, that's just creepy. So we have to talk about the Great Rift. The galaxy basically split in two. How did that mess with the throne?
It almost broke it. The birth of the rift, triggered by Abaddon's 13th Black Crusade, it caused this galaxy-wide warp storm, Noctis Eterna, the eternal night.
I remember reading about that. The Astronomican was blocked, whole sectors cut off.
It was a nightmare. The Emperor was straining to keep the Astronomican going, to pierce the warp storms. Imagine the burden on him, on the throne.
Yeah, and what about the Imperium? How did they deal with it?
Well, it got divided, right? Imperium Sanctus and Imperium Nihilus, the Nihilus half, cut off from the Astronomican. They had to use less reliable, more dangerous ways to travel through the warp.
That's got to be terrifying. No wonder people were losing faith.
It was a dark time. And then Guilliman returns. He actually gets to talk to the Emperor in a psychic way, sees his suffering.
So that's why he's so hesitant to mess with the throne. He knows how fragile it is.
Exactly. He's likely implemented the Drukhari fix, but
Yeah.
it's a temporary solution. We don't know about the Morvain mission. Call might be working on something, but Guilliman's not taking chances.
Call the Archmagos Dominus.
He's Call. Well, he's Call.
He's unpredictable, brilliant, but you never know what he's going to do. So the throne is still working, but it's on life support itself, basically.
It is. The Astronomican is weaker, resources are stretched thin, people are scared, but there's also a lot of hope. Guilliman's back, the Astronomican is back, people are reporting more miracles from the Emperor.
Miracles. So his power is actually growing.
Some believe that. They think he's becoming a true warp god.
So what's the truth about the throne?
The truth. That's a tough one. The Emperor never meant for it to be like this. He wanted it to be a gateway to a better future.
A future without chaos.
Exactly. The life support, the sacrifices, all of that. It was never the plan.
Talk about unintended consequences.
It makes you think, right? Was this all a mistake? A tragic accident?
Well, some people think the Emperor planned this. That he's becoming a god on purpose. The Star Child theory, right?
Star Child.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an old theory. That the Emperor's soul will be reborn in the warp when his body dies. There are hints in the lore. Even some Eldar prophecies say something similar.
The Eldar. They're the space elves, basically. They know a lot about psychic stuff.
A lot more than humans. and their prophecies are rarely wrong.
But there are other prophecies too, right? Not all of them are good.
Well, plenty of bad ones. Cassandra's prophecy, the Terminus decree. Chaos has its own prophecies too, saying the emperor will fall or be corrupted.
Yikes. So let's address the big
You
question.
mean what happens if the throne fails?
Yeah, what then? No more Emperor, no more Astronomican. The Webway portal under Terra bursts open, demons everywhere.
It would be. Well, the end of the Imperium as we know it. The emperor's body would die for sure. But his soul, that's the big unknown.
Does he get reborn, ascended to godhood? Or does chaos get him?
It's all speculation. But there's also Vulcan's failsafe, the talisman of 7 hammers. Terra gets wiped out if the throne goes down.
That's a pretty drastic solution.
It is, but it shows how high the stakes are. And what about the Imperium? They could collapse into civil war. Or maybe, just maybe, a new leader will emerge.
Another Primarch, maybe.
Maybe. It's a grim thought, but sometimes you need a clean slate to rebuild.
So much to think about.
It really makes you appreciate the scale of it all, doesn't it? The Golden Throne, this ancient machine, it wasn't meant to be like this.
No, it's a tragedy in a lot of ways. And it makes you wonder about the Emperor. Did he want to become a god?
Did he choose this? Or was it thrust upon him?
He was always so focused on logic, on reason.
But now he's the center of a galaxy-spanning religion. It's fascinating.
The Golden Throne it's a Chekhov's gun. Sooner or later, something's got to happen.
It has to. It's too unstable, too important to just keep going like this.
Well, we could talk for hours about this. There's so much to unpack. But we've got to wrap up. We've learned that the throne is way older than most people think. It was meant to be a gateway, not a prison. And, well, that it costs a lot to keep it running. A lot.
It's been quite a journey. So what stood out to you the most? About the Golden Throne, I mean.
I think the sheer scale of it, the sacrifices, the constant struggle to keep it going, it's both awe-inspiring and horrifying.
It is. And this is just scratching the surface of Warhammer 40K lore. There's so much more to explore.
Absolutely. So, to everyone listening, we got to ask, is the Golden Throne a symbol of hope, or is it just prolonging the inevitable? Is humanity better off clinging to this ancient relic, or should they be looking for another way?
Maybe it's both. Hope and despair, all tangled in gold and psychic energy.
Heavy stuff. Thanks for listening, everyone, and keep those cogitators turning.
Until next time.